I stand before you today with several goals in my mind, and I warn you that one of my intentions is to motivate your generosity as you pledge some of your monies to sustain and support the ongoing work of this church. However, I fear my timing might be poor. I might be a week late to be making this ask, given the rude shock to our investments over the past few days. The arrogance and callous disregard for people shown by our president directly caused American markets to drop around $5 trillion just on Thursday and Friday. Not many of us can wrap our heads around what 5 trillion is, so I'll help you. To put it in scale, $5 trillion, if my math is good, and Greg's not here to check me, it's about $20,000 for every single person, adult and child, documented and undocumented, who are living in our country. Now, that doesn't mean that each person lost $20,000. This is a first world problem. Some money in the markets is from foreigners, and all of the money in the markets belongs to persons who before Thursday had money. The way it affects most of us is through our retirement savings, our 401ks and the like. And this is scary. We spend our lives trying to squirrel and stash away enough money to ensure a certain level of comfort after we stop earning. And we like to think that it will be there when we need it. Ruth, you retired last month. Don't you think your timing was great? Yeah. Conventional wisdom claims that markets will rebound over time. But these are not conventional times. Conventional wisdom also claims that the arc of the universe bends towards justice. But again, these are not conventional times. The only thing I can say clearly about all of this, as I see it, is that we need to feel real urgency to restore conventional times, however we can. And conventional is a pretty low bar. Conventional times are what we were intent on improving before this past January. But everything that was wrong before has become far worse. The weak and marginalized in America move nearer to peril with each new assault on civil liberties and each threat to economic possibility. These are times that call for us to stand up and to make our disagreements known, loudly, constantly. The hands-off demonstrations across the nation yesterday are a start. The Wisconsin Supreme Court election was a start. We need to become a force in any way we can. Now, Jeff is heading up our stewardship campaign this month for the coming year. And the theme of the campaign is a port in a storm. We hope that we are a calming place, a safe place, a place of refuge for you in these turbulent times. And the sub-theme of the campaign, and I don't know whether it's in writing or not, but I heard it in his words, is resist, recharge, and renew. And that sounds perfect for where we find ourselves today. We will resist. We must resist. And we can do this better together with mutual guidance and shared support. We can speak our values and align with others who share those values. We will provide sanctuary when and if we can, and we will support others who provide sanctuary. We are and will continue to be a justice-seeking people, not only because a just world is a better world, but because we know that we can find and enjoy the innate goodness that justice bestows on our lives. We will recharge. Our community is a safe harbor, a place where we can express our feelings and values with others, without worry, without fear. We can challenge one another in good conscience, and sharpen our thoughts on the whetstone of loving criticism. In this church, we form bonds that sustain and energize us before we face the world beyond these castle walls, before we face potential dissent and animosity. And we will renew. We constantly rediscover that our purpose in resisting injustice comes from deep in our hearts and souls, from a place of love for ourselves and one another, bringing out a love for humankind and for our planet. This church was created by a long line of ancestors, and it has always stood as a place for free thought and expression, a place of inward search and discovery, a place where we can mold and share the values that we hope will sustain and enrich us throughout our lives and throughout the lives of those who follow us. It pains me desperately that our nation is in a place where I feel the need to frame our internal fundraising discussion by claiming our importance through a lens of resistance and political opposition. A year ago, I spoke more of feeding our inner selves and finding ways to extend security and well-being further into our community. But one value of this church community is our agility in responding to the world as we currently know it, as it presents itself to us. And respond we must. Turning back to the pledge, there are numerous ways for each of us to support the work of Beverly Unitarian. We do so with our presence, by sharing our talents and skills, by generosity with our time and energy, and by the giving of our treasure. All are essential and important, but on Stewardship Sunday, we emphasize the treasure part. Money is a funny thing in our world. Most of us work assiduously to avoid money discussions, not only with strangers, but also with friends, loved ones, and surprisingly, and too often, even within households. Most of us have learned to share our thoughts about religion, about politics, and sometimes even sex, and the list can go on. Yet money, which is the currency that lubricates all aspects of the society we share, is still often a taboo. Something about money talk offends our genteel liberal sensibilities. It feels impolite, but in part that is because most of us haven't come to terms with money. We don't really understand the power of money in our lives. We don't like the power of money in our lives. We crave the power of money in our lives, and we're in denial about all of this. In most cases, it feels rude to ask another how much money they make or what they have in the bank. You don't have to ask me what I earn. My salary is public. It's printed in our budget. And I will even share with you that my wife and I now have enough invested in our retirement nest egg that I lost more money this week than you will pay me for the entire year. It's painful enough that all we can do is laugh about it, and we do. This church operates entirely on what we, its members and a few friends, contribute each year, and the monies we raise through fundraisers, things like our service auction, the concert series, and selling Christmas trees. I love it that we, the least Christian church in the neighborhood, live off of Christmas trees. We get a little from building rentals as well. And this doesn't feel wrong. It's our church after all. And when we agree to join in membership, we must agree to assume some responsibility for tending to the welfare of our shared religious home. We ask members to pledge a sum of money each year, and we use these pledges to form a budget. There are no real guidelines for giving. We ask you to consider your needs and your conscience, to determine a personal level of giving that you find comfortable. It's done anonymously for the most part, and the dollar amounts tend to be shared only on a need-to-know basis. Usually Jeff or whoever's in his job will know because he handles the pledges. Paula or whoever's in her position will know because she processes your checks. But most of us only know pledge amounts in the aggregate, how much we as a group, as a congregation, pledged for the next year. We believe that access to what church provides should never be influenced by how much you pay. At the same time, we know that we gradually need to grow our pledge base in order to keep operating in the manner we expect. There are years, and we've seen many of them, where the church appeals directly for substantial pledge increases to support programs or projects, or to offset unseen and unanticipated expenses. Fortunately, this is not one of those years. We are relatively healthy in financial terms. We seek pledge growth to offset inflation and to replace the pledges we lose because members have passed on or moved away. So our appeal is to pledge as generously as you can without totally disrupting your own lives and budgets. It really is a sort of a from each according to their ability to each according to their needs situation. Our church, in this way, is an exercise in socialism. I had planned to speak philosophically about money this morning, but I got diverted by the current political and economic environment. The important takeaway from what I'm not saying would be that forever how much we disdain money, the ways we use it should be a clear and important expression of what we value, of what's important to us. It's not only the measure of what we value, but it's not the only measure of what we value, but it's a biggie. If our spending habits are inconsistent with our perceptions of what's important, maybe that's a signal that a correction in our course is needed. Some of us can be recklessly extravagant in our spending, while others are just plain miserly. Neither of these is really great. Money, like any other resource, is best directed in a careful and mindful manner, in ways that are consistent with our values, needs, and abilities. A tradition in much of American life, at least American religious life, is the tithe, where everyone is expected to give 10% of their income to the church every year. Very few you use tithe. In the Muslim world, one of the pillars of Islam is zakat. As prescribed in the Quran, this is an annual gift of 2.5% of one's wealth, not one's income. And this money goes directly to charity and not to a mosque or a religious body. Just like we don't tell you what to believe, we don't tell you what to pledge. What we do tell you is to pay your pledge. You don't have to make a big one, but we do count on the monies coming in. So that's very important. Many UUs feel some tension in directing their own charitable giving. And part of it's because there are so many worthy causes out there. I would never ask you to shortchange the ACLU or NPR or Planned Parenthood or any charities that you support in order to pledge more here. All of these contributions use your dollars in a manner that expresses your fundamental values, which tend to be all of our fundamental values. One suggestion for those who can afford it is sometimes referred to as the UU tithe. This is a suggestion to direct 10% of your income to good causes, of which the church is only one. Some of the money should go to the church, some to traditional charities, and some for who knows what, maybe helping the neighbor who just had hard times. No one is tracking what you pay out, only you and your conscience. You and your conscience. It's a frequent theme here. One thing we hope to support and enrich in each of us is learning to live in a manner guided by and consistent with your values. And the important idea is that you do follow your values, not mine, not ours. We do work together to help everyone discern what's most important to them, but you remain your own judge. I would never look askance at one of you for enjoying a good meal or eating an ice cream cone. That would be unfairly judgmental because I don't know your needs and preferences, and I have to trust the choices you make. And I think ice cream cones are one of the great human sacraments. There are limits, though. I would strongly suggest this month that none of you run out and buy a Tesla. That's a case where I might get judgmental. But for so many reasons, our church is essential for each of us, for our community, and for our world. We need to nurture every possible source of resistance to the threat of tyranny, and together we do this much better than we do it apart. The goal of this stewardship campaign is to encourage generous pledging, but even more, it's to remind you of the truth that you want to be generous in this giving. Supporting this community is an action that serves your interests and that should leave you feeling good inside, or so I hope. Blessed be and amen.